Imagine the sun, not as a colossal star millions of miles away, but as a tiny spotlight, perhaps only 32 miles across, hovering just a few thousand miles above us and elegantly circling the North Pole like a celestial mobile. Picture this: every time you drop your keys or a piece of toast, buttered side down of course, they aren't actually falling. Instead, the entire immense disk of the Earth is accelerating upwards at a steady 9.8 meters per second squared, rushing to meet them. And forget everything you thought you knew about Antarctica being a continent at the bottom of the world. In this reality, it's a colossal unbroken ice wall, possibly hundreds or even thousands of feet high, encircling the entire known world, a formidable frozen barrier holding in all our oceans. Number 9. Oceans are proof. Positive water always finds its level. It's a principle so simple. You've seen it 1,000 times. Pour water into a glass, a bowl, or run a bath. What happens? The water settles, and its surface becomes perfectly, undeniably level. This isn't a trick. It's a fundamental physical property of fluids. They don't naturally stay bent or curved. They conform to the shape of their container at the bottom and sides, but the surface exposed to air pressure above will always seek to be flat and level. Now, let your mind expand that simple observation. Think about a calm pond or a lake. Its surface, stretching out before you, appears flat. What if we scale this up even further, to the truly colossal bodies of water that dominate our world, the Atlantic Ocean, the Pacific Ocean, the Indian Ocean? If the Earth were a spinning globe, as some suggest, then these vast expanses of water would have to exhibit a distinct curvature, conforming to the spherical shape of the planet. The surface of the ocean would need to be convex, bulging outwards. Standing on one shore, you'd be looking downhill towards the center of the ocean, and then uphill again towards the opposite shore, if it were far enough away. Calculations suggest that on a sphere of 25,000 miles circumference, the Earth would curve downwards, roughly 8 inches for the first mile. Then this drop increases exponentially. For 10 miles, it would be over 66 feet, and for 100 miles, a staggering 6,600 feet, more than a mile of vertical drop. Yet, when we observe these bodies of water, particularly on a calm day, the horizon line appears perfectly straight, perfectly level. There's no discernible bend, no visible curvature. Engineers and surveyors have, for centuries, relied on this very principle. When constructing long canals, such as the famous Suez Canal, which stretches for over 100 miles connecting the Mediterranean Sea to the Red Sea, there's no major allowance made in its construction for accommodating the Earth's alleged curvature. The canal is, essentially, a long, level trench, and the water flows in and sits flat. If there were a 6,600-foot difference in elevation due to curvature along its length, its construction and operation would be an entirely different engineering nightmare, likely requiring numerous complex locks simply to manage the changing water levels. Instead, it's known for its near absence of locks, primarily because the sea levels at both ends are very similar. Similarly, lighthouses are built to project their beams outwards. On a curved surface, the light from a lighthouse should disappear below the horizon relatively quickly for a ship sailing away. Yet there are numerous accounts of lighthouse beams being visible from distances that would be impossible if the light had to travel over a significantly curved surface of water. The light just seems to travel straight across a flat plane. On a flat disk Earth, the behavior of water makes immediate intuitive sense. The oceans are simply vast, contained bodies of water resting on a flat, level plane. Their surfaces are naturally flat because water always finds its level. There's no need for complex explanations about gravity holding a bulging ocean onto a spinning sphere. The water is behaving exactly as you see it behave in your teacup or your bathtub, just on a much, much grander scale. This, of course, raises a rather important question. If the oceans are flat and level, what's stopping them from just flowing off the edge? This leads directly to the concept of a boundary, a container wall for our world's waters. Number 8. Ships don't go over the curve, they just shrink away. You've probably heard the classic explanation for why ships disappear hull first as they sail away. They are going over the curve of the Earth, presented as simple proof of a spherical planet. First, the hull vanishes, then the deck, and finally, the tip of the mast is the last thing you see before it too dips below the horizon. Seems logical, right? But what if there's another explanation? One that doesn't require a giant curve at all. Consider this. When you watch a car drive away down a long, straight road, what happens? It gets smaller and smaller, and eventually, it becomes so tiny that you can no longer distinguish it. It seems to vanish into what's called the vanishing point in art and perspective. The road itself doesn't curve downwards out of sight. The car just reaches the limit of your ability to see it due to its decreasing angular size and the effects of atmospheric perspective. Now apply this to a ship on the ocean. As a ship sails away, it naturally gets smaller in your field of vision. The further away it is, the less detail you can perceive. Added to this is the effect of the atmosphere itself. Air isn't perfectly transparent, especially over vast distances and close to the water's surface. There's haze, humidity, dust particles, and temperature variations that can cause shimmering and distortion, a phenomenon often referred to as atmospheric extinction or as aerosol scattering. These particles in the air scatter light, making distant objects appear less distinct, hazier, and eventually can obscure them entirely. So, when a ship appears to sink hull first, what if it's actually an illusion created by perspective and these atmospheric conditions? The lower parts of the ship, being closer to the water, might be more quickly obscured by waves. Even small ones at a distance merge into a visual barrier. And the denser, hazier air often found near the sea surface, the mass being higher up remains visible for longer simply because it's the last part to be overcome by these effects of distance and atmospheric interference. It's not going over anything, it's just receding into the distance until it's too small and too obscured by the air and water phenomena to be seen by the naked eye. What's more, if you use a powerful telescope or binoculars, you can often bring a ship that has vanished to the naked eye back into view. If the ship had truly gone over a physical curve, no amount of magnification should be able to make it reappear, as it would be physically obstructed by a massive bulge of water. Yet, there are many documented instances where observers with high-powered optics have reacquired ships or even distant land features that should, according to calculations of Earth's curvature, be hundreds or even thousands of feet below the horizon. On a flat Earth, the ocean is a vast, level plain. Ships sail away on this plain, and just like the car on the long road, they appear to get lower and eventually vanish due to the laws of perspective and the limitations of human vision compounded by atmospheric conditions. The horizon itself isn't the edge of a curve, but rather the vanishing point for your specific line of sight across that flat surface, limited by the clarity of the air and the power of your vision or your optical instruments. This means that theoretically, with a powerful enough telescope and perfectly clear atmospheric conditions, you could see indefinitely across the flat oceans, from one continent to another, if they were on the same uninterrupted plane. The only true limit would be the conditions of the medium through which you are looking. Number 7. The sun and moon are small, local spotlights. We're taught that the sun is a colossal star, about 93 million miles away, and that its immense distance and size are what illuminate our entire planet. The moon, too, is said to be a massive rocky body, over 2,000 miles in diameter. orbiting us from about 239,000 miles away. These are mind-boggling numbers and scales. But what if the sun and moon are much, much closer and much, much smaller? Imagine the sun not as a distant inferno, but as a kind of celestial spotlight, perhaps only 30 to 40 miles in diameter, located just a few thousand miles above the surface of a flat Earth, say 3,000 miles up. In this model, the sun doesn't illuminate half the globe at once. Instead, it travels in a circular path above the disk of the Earth, its focused light illuminating a specific region below it, creating daylight in that area. As it moves, this circle of light sweeps across the surface of the Earth, bringing day to different regions in turn. Areas outside this focused beam of light experience night. This would explain why the sun appears to rise and set. It's not the Earth turning, but the sun itself moving across the sky, eventually moving too far away from your position for its light to reach you directly. The moon, similarly, would be another relatively small celestial body, also a few thousand miles up, following its own circular path, perhaps slightly different from the sun's or at a different speed, which would account for its phases and its appearance at different times. The light of the moon could be its own luminescence, or it could still be reflecting the light from this close-by sun. Eclipses, in this scenario, become more complex. A solar eclipse might involve a third unseen dark object passing between us and this local sun, or the sun momentarily dimming. A lunar eclipse could be a similar shadowy object obscuring the moon. This model of a small local sun would also explain some otherwise puzzling observations. For instance, sun rays often appear to fan out from behind clouds, a phenomenon known as crepuscular rays. If the sun were truly 93 million miles away, its rays should be virtually parallel by the time they reach Earth. However, if the sun is close, these diverging rays make perfect sense, like rays from a nearby spotlight. Similarly, the way sunlight appears as a defined spot on the clouds when viewed from an airplane, or how a sunset can illuminate the undersides of clouds far to the east, while the area directly below the observer is in shadow, seems more consistent with a nearby light source moving across a flat plane. Seasons could be explained by the sun's circular path changing throughout the year, perhaps in summer for the northern regions. The sun's circle is tighter and closer to the North Pole, the center of the flat Earth disk, resulting in longer days and more direct light. In winter, the sun's path widens, moving further south towards the outer regions of the disk, resulting in shorter days and less direct light for the north. Tropics would be the regions over which the sun passes directly overhead during its annual migration between these two extremes of its path. This vision of a small sun and moon fundamentally changes our relationship with the cosmos. They are not distant, almost abstract entities, but relatively close companions, integral parts of a much more contained and intimate terrestrial system, their movements directly and visibly dictating the cycles of day, night, and seasons across the flat expanse of the world. Number 6. Gravity isn't a pull, it's a push. The Earth is accelerating upwards. We all experience gravity. Drop an apple, and it falls to the ground. Jump up, and you come back down. Conventional explanation is that this is due to a force of attraction exerted by massive objects, like the Earth pulling everything towards their center. This force supposedly holds us to a spinning sphere and keeps the oceans from flying off. But what if there's no such force as gravity? What if, instead, the sensation of weight and the phenomenon of objects falling are due to something entirely different? Consider this alternative. The disk of the Earth is not stationary, nor is it merely spinning. Instead, the entire flat Earth is constantly accelerating upwards at a rate of 9.8 meters per second squared. or 32 feet per second squared. This is the same acceleration value that standard physics attributes to gravitational pull near the Earth's surface. In this scenario, when you drop an apple, the apple isn't actually falling downwards due to a mysterious pull. Instead, the apple remains momentarily suspended in space, or its upward motion is less than the Earth's. And the ground, the entire Earth disk, rushes upwards to meet it. When you jump, you push off from the accelerating Earth, but the Earth continues its relentless upward acceleration and quickly catches up to you, bringing you back down to its surface. Your perceived weight is simply the resistance of your mass to this constant upward acceleration, the force of the Earth's surface pushing against your feet. This concept, known as universal acceleration, elegantly explains why things fall down without resorting to an invisible force of attraction acting over vast distances. Everything on the surface of the Earth and the Earth itself is moving upwards together. If something is released, it simply gets left behind by the accelerating Earth until the Earth makes contact with it again. This, of course, raises some monumental questions. What is causing this constant upward acceleration? There would need to be an immense continuous force propelling the entire disk of the Earth upwards through space. What is this force? Is it some kind of dark energy, a giant cosmic engine beneath the disk, or something else entirely beyond our current comprehension? And what happens to objects that are above the Earth for extended periods, like birds or airplanes? They too must be constantly adjusting their altitude relative to the approaching ground. For an airplane to maintain a constant altitude, it would actually need to be accelerating upwards at the same rate as the Earth. Furthermore, what is the ultimate speed of the Earth? If it's constantly accelerating at 9.8 m², its upward velocity would be increasing indefinitely. Over days, years, centuries, it would reach incredible, perhaps relativistic speeds. What are the consequences of such immense and ever-increasing velocity? And what happens to the space below the Earth that it is vacating? While these are profound questions, the core idea is that the everyday experience of down is not about a pull from below, but a push from below. It removes the need for gravity as a fundamental force in the local context, replacing it with the mechanics of constant motion. Objects don't fall. The Earth rises. It's a simple switch in perspective that completely redefines our most basic interaction with the world beneath our feet. Number 5. The mysterious Antarctic ice wall, the edge of the world. Antarctica, in the conventional model, is a continent, a landmass covered in ice, situated at the southernmost point of a spherical Earth. Expeditions have supposedly crossed it, and nations lay claim to sectors of it. But what if Antarctica is not a continent at all? What if it is something far grander, far more mysterious, and far more crucial to the very structure of our world? In a flat Earth model, where the oceans are vast level plains of water, there must be something to contain them, to prevent them from spilling off the edges of the disk. This is where the concept of the Antarctic ice wall comes into play. Imagine Antarctica as an immense circular wall of ice, hundreds, perhaps even thousands of feet high, encircling the entire known world. It forms the outer rim of the flat Earth disk. All the continents, North America, South America, Europe, Asia, Africa, Australia, are situated on this disk, surrounded by the oceans, and the entire system is then bounded by this colossal ice barrier. What we call the South Pole in the globe model is, in this flat Earth view, not a point, but this circumferential ice wall. Journeys to the South Pole are actually journeys toward this ice wall from various points on the disk. flying around Antarctica on a globe would actually mean circumnavigating the outer perimeter of the flat disk along the edge of this ice wall. This would explain why such circumnavigations are incredibly long journeys. Captain Cook, in the 1770s, sailed for 3 years and over 60,000 miles trying to find a passage through or around the southern ice, often encountering impenetrable walls of ice towering over his ships. He described it as an ice continent, but perhaps he was, in fact, tracing portions of this massive outer barrier. The sheer extent of this ice and the extreme cold and inhospitable conditions would naturally deter most exploration and make it incredibly difficult to ascertain its true nature and extent. What lies beyond this ice wall? This is one of the greatest mysteries in the flat Earth model. Is it just an endless expanse of more ice and snow? Does the ice wall extend upwards indefinitely, perhaps meeting a physical dome or firmament above? Or does the land of the Earth disk continue beyond the wall, perhaps into uncharted territories, other worlds, or realms unknown? Some speculate that there might be more land, more resources, or even other civilizations beyond this icy boundary, deliberately kept hidden. The existence of such an ice wall would also imply that it might be guarded or monitored. The Antarctic Treaty, which demilitarizes Antarctica and restricts access, is sometimes viewed with suspicion in this context, perhaps as an agreement among world powers to prevent ordinary people from discovering the true nature of the edge of the world and what lies beyond. Who are the guardians, if any? And what are they protecting or protecting us from? The Antarctic ice wall is not just a geographical feature in this model. It's a fundamental component of the world's structure, the ultimate boundary of our known existence. It holds in the life-giving waters of our oceans and presents an impassable frozen frontier beyond which lie the greatest unknowns. Number 4. No satellites, just stratospheric deception. We live in an age of instant global communication. GPS navigation that tells us our precise location anywhere on Earth, and stunning images of weather patterns from space. All of this is attributed to a vast network of man-made satellites orbiting the Earth. We're told there are thousands of them up there for communication, navigation, Earth observation, and scientific research. But what if these satellites don't exist? At least not in the way we imagine them orbiting a spherical Earth. On a flat Earth, the concept of objects orbiting a central point in space due to gravity becomes problematic, especially if gravity itself is reimagined as upward acceleration of the Earth. So, how can we explain the services we attribute to satellites? The alternative proposes that these services are provided by a network of terrestrial and atmospheric technologies. GPS, for instance, instead of relying on signals from 24 or more satellites in medium Earth orbit, could function through a system of powerful ground-based radio towers, similar to the LORAN, long-range navigation, system used before GPS. Triangulation from these strategically placed towers could provide location data for wider coverage, especially over oceans. These transmitters could be mounted on high-altitude balloons or pseudo-satellites, sometimes called atmosatellites, essentially uncrewed aerial vehicles or dirigibles lingering in the upper stratosphere, far above commercial air travel we think of as space. Satellite television. This could be broadcast from these same high-altitude platforms or from very tall ground-based towers relaying signals across the flat plane of the Earth. Weather satellite images. These could be composites created from high-altitude aircraft reconnaissance, weather balloons equipped with cameras, and sophisticated ground-based radar systems like Doppler radar, all pieced together to give the appearance of a view from orbit. The images of a curved Earth, often accompanying weather reports, would simply be artistic renderings or CG, not actual photographs from space. Even live video feeds from the International Space Station, IS would need an alternative explanation. These could be elaborate hoaxes, filmed in specialized studios, perhaps underwater for a convincing simulation of weightlessness using advanced wire work, green screens, and CGI. The astronauts themselves would be highly trained actors or individuals sworn to secrecy as part of a massive global deception. The sheer scale of such a deception would be enormous, requiring the complicity of governments, space agencies, telecommunication companies, and media outlets worldwide. It would be a conspiracy of unparalleled magnitude. Why go to such lengths? Perhaps to maintain the illusion of a spherical Earth and a vast explorable cosmos, thereby concealing the true, more limited and contained nature of our world as a flat disk, possibly enclosed by a dome and an outer ice wall. This explanation means that the space race might have been less about conquering outer space and more about developing advanced high-altitude atmospheric technology and sophisticated methods of simulation and information control. The rockets we see launching might be for high-altitude research, atmospheric deployment of these pseudo-satellites, or simply for show, not actually achieving stable orbit around a globe. Our connection to the world through our devices isn't mediated by distant objects floating in a vacuum, but by a much closer Earth-bound or atmosphere-bound infrastructure. Number 3. The sky is a solid dome. Welcome to the terrarium. We look up at the sky and see the sun, moon, and stars. Conventional astronomy tells us this is a window into an almost infinite universe, with celestial bodies scattered across unimaginable distances in the vacuum of space. Earth is just one small planet among countless others. But what if the sky isn't an open window, but a physical barrier, a solid dome or firmament arcing over the flat disk of the Earth? In this model, the Earth is a contained environment, like a giant terrarium. The dome itself could be made of a super-strong, transparent or semi-transparent material, perhaps crystalline or metallic, forming a literal ceiling to our world. The stars, in this scenario, are not distant suns. They could be small lights embedded within this dome, or perhaps projections onto its inner surface, like a giant planetarium. Their regular movements across the sky would be due to the rotation of this dome above the stationary flat Earth. The constellations would be fixed patterns on this celestial sphere. This would explain why the constellations have remained remarkably consistent in their patterns throughout recorded human history. They are part of a fixed structure. What about meteors or shooting stars? These wouldn't be space rocks burning up in the atmosphere from outside our solar system. Instead, they could be phenomena occurring within the upper layers of our atmosphere, beneath the dome, or perhaps even events on the surface of the dome itself, sparks, lights, or small pieces breaking off. The sun and moon, as discussed earlier, would also be located under this dome, moving in their prescribed paths within the confines of this enclosed system. The existence of a physical firmament would also explain where the atmosphere is contained. It's held in by the dome above and the ice wall at the periphery, preventing it from dissipating into any supposed vacuum of space. The blue color of the sky might be the inherent color of the dome material, or perhaps related to the properties of the atmosphere contained beneath it when illuminated by the sun. This concept of a dome or firmament is not new. It's found in many ancient cosmologies. Paints a picture of a world that is protected, enclosed, and perhaps purposefully constructed. What lies beyond the dome? Is it water, as some ancient texts suggest, the waters above? Is it a void? Or is it the realm of a creator or other entities? The dome acts as an ultimate boundary, not just horizontally, like the ice wall, but also vertically. Rockets launched into space would, in this model, either hit this dome and be destroyed or deflected, or they are part of the grand deception, never actually going as high or as far as claimed. Any attempts to penetrate the dome would be futile or perhaps even forbidden. It implies a limit to our exploration and our understanding of the cosmos, a literal ceiling on our aspirations to reach outer space. Our world is a self-contained habitat, its boundaries clearly defined by the Earth disk below, the ice wall around, and the solid sky above. Number 2. All globe proof is CGI and conspiracy. We are constantly bombarded with images and videos supposedly proving the Earth is a sphere. Photographs from space showing a blue marble, live feeds from the International Space Station with astronauts floating in front of curved windows, time lapses of the Earth rotating, satellite imagery on Google Earth. It all seems like overwhelming evidence. But what if every single one of these images, videos, and data sets is fabricated? What if it's all part of an incredibly elaborate, meticulously orchestrated, and globally enforced deception? In a world where the Earth is truly flat, this would be the only way to maintain the illusion of a globe. Consider the iconic blue marble photograph taken by the Apollo 17 crew. What if it's not a photograph at all, but a skillfully created piece of artwork, a composite image, or an early form of CGI, computer-generated imagery? Similarly, all subsequent images of Earth from space, from NASA, Roscosmos, ESA, and other space agencies, would be sophisticated digital creations. The technology to create photorealistic CGI is now incredibly advanced. It's used extensively in movies to create entire worlds and fantastical creatures that look completely real. Why couldn't this same technology be used to generate images of a spherical Earth? Live feeds from the ISS. As mentioned before, these could be pre-recorded loops or live-action performances, filmed in specially designed studios, using green screens, wirework, and controlled environments to simulate zero gravity in the backdrop of a curved Earth. Astronauts would be highly trained actors, their missions not to space, but to sound stages. The immense budgets of space agencies wouldn't be for space exploration, but for maintaining this massive illusion, funding the technology, the personnel, and the disinformation campaigns. Google Earth, which allows you to spin a digital globe and zoom in on locations, would simply be a clever piece of software mapping aerial and ground-level photography onto a spherical model. The underlying data, the photos of streets, towns, and landscapes, is real, but its presentation as part of a sphere is the deceptive part. The actual land masses exist on a flat plane, but are digitally wrapped around a globe for the user interface. Why such a colossal conspiracy? The motives could be numerous and complex. Perhaps it's about control. If people believe they live on an insignificant speck of dust in an infinite universe, they might feel small, powerless, and easier to govern. Conversely, if they knew they lived in a special, enclosed, and perhaps central place in creation, it might empower them in ways undesirable to ruling elites. Perhaps it's about hiding resources or territories beyond the known world, or concealing the existence of a creator or a different cosmological structure. Or maybe the deception started for some historical reason and has become too big to reveal the consequences of admitting such a monumental lie being too catastrophic for global stability. This means that hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of people across many countries and generations would have to be in on it. Scientists, engineers, pilots, astronauts, media personnel, government officials. The level of secrecy and coordination required would be almost unimaginable. Yet, if the Earth is indeed flat, then this grand deception is not just a possibility, but a necessity to keep the truth hidden from the general population. Every proof of a globe Earth becomes, in this light, another piece of carefully crafted propaganda. Number 1. No. Coriolis effect means no spin. You might have heard of the Coriolis effect. It's the reason, we're told, that hurricanes spin counterclockwise in the northern hemisphere and clockwise in the southern hemisphere. It's also said to affect long-range artillery shells, ocean currents, and even the way water drains down a pew hole, though the pew hole example is often debated as being too small scale for the effect to be consistently observable over other factors. This effect is supposedly caused by the Earth's rotation. Because the Earth is a spinning sphere, different points on its surface are moving at different speeds. The equator moves fastest, while the poles are virtually stationary. This difference in speed causes objects moving across latitudes to appear to be deflected from their path. Now, imagine a flat, stationary Earth. If the Earth is not a spinning sphere, then there is no Coriolis effect generated by its motion. This would have profound implications. Large-scale weather systems like hurricanes and cyclones would not inherently gain their characteristic spin from the Earth's rotation. Their rotation, if it occurs, would have to be due to other factors, such as localized temperature and pressure differences or other atmospheric dynamics not reliant on a planetary spin. Consistent counterclockwise, clockwise pattern in different hemispheres, which, on a flat Earth, would be inner and outer concentric regions around the central North Pole, would need a different explanation, perhaps related to the movement of the Sun and Moon over the disk or prevailing wind patterns established by other means within the enclosed system. Long-range ballistics would also be different. Snipers and artillery crews on a spherical Earth are trained to account for the Coriolis effect, especially over very long distances, as the projectile will seem to drift. On a flat, stationary Earth, this correction would be unnecessary. Projectile would fly straight to its target, accounting for wind and gravity, or rather, the Earth's upward acceleration, without any mysterious sideways drift caused by planetary rotation. Military calculations for long-range targeting would be simpler. Ocean currents, too, are said to be significantly influenced by the Coriolis effect, creating large rotating gyres. Without this effect, the patterns of major ocean currents would need to be explained by other forces, such as wind, temperature differences, thermohaline circulation, and the shape of the ocean basins on the flat Earth. Even something as seemingly simple as a Foucault pendulum, which is often demonstrated in science museums as proof of the Earth's rotation, the plane of its swing appears to rotate throughout the day, would need an alternative explanation. Perhaps it's influenced by the movement of the dome above, or by subtle electromagnetic fields, or it's a cleverly engineered illusion. The absence of a global Coriolis effect stemming from planetary rotation is a cornerstone of the flat Earth model. If the Earth isn't spinning, then this force simply doesn't exist in the way it's conventionally described. This means that many large-scale natural phenomena that are attributed to it must have other, possibly more complex or currently unknown causes within the framework of a stationary flat plane. It simplifies some things, like ballistics, while requiring entirely new explanations for others, like hurricane spin. It fundamentally alters our understanding of the dynamics of our atmosphere and oceans, suggesting they operate under a different set of rules on this unmoving, level world.